Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. I've got a couple of guns to compare today. I've got an XDM Elite Series 4.5 lent to us by Springfield Armory, and I thought it would be kind of fun to compare it to one of the original tacticals. This is an M9A3, which is the latest generation of the 92 FS M9 series. They both have threaded barrels, they're both high capacity, and they're both basically tactical guns. One of the primary differences, of course, that the Springfield is striker fired and the M9A3 is hammer fired. They're a little different than each other, but being tactical is kind of a fun comparison. So we're going to start out and make sure that neither one of these two is in the mood to bite today. So we have some unloaded guns. So first thing I'm going to do is put them side by side. They're both flat dark earth. They both have threaded barrels, as I mentioned. The barrels are similar in length. The Elite XDM is a 5.25 or 5.28 inch barrel, and the M9A3 is a 5-inch barrel, so it's a little bit shorter barrel. Overall length, though, is quite similar: 8.6 for the Elite, 8.7 for the M9A3. From a height perspective, they're also relatively similar, if it weren't for the magwell, of course. 5.875 on the Elite and 5 inches on the M9A3. They're both a 3-finger grip, but you'll see that with the base of the grip and the magwell, the Elite series is a little bit taller. Comes from some capacity to go with that. It's 22 rounds, it's 19 in the body, and then it's got an extender for +2 on the XDM Elite series. And on the Beretta, it's a 17-round flush magazine. And by the way, I did my math wrong. It's a +3 on the extension for the Elite series. So they're both high capacity, even though when you get into a 22-round capacity gun, you've got quite a bit of capacity. From a thickness perspective, of course, hammer guns tend to be fatter. It's 1.5 inches for the Beretta and 1.2 inches for the XDM. They're both comfortable to hold, and as I mentioned, they're at least a full 3-finger grip on both of them. They both have a beaver tail. Kind of grab one in my left hand so I can turn it over. So they both have a beaver tail. You get high up in there, you do get a full 3-finger grip with both of them. You're not going to get slide bit. This one doesn't have replaceable back straps. What it does have is replaceable sleeves. It comes with 2. And there's a thinner one that you can actually put on here that kind of makes the grip a little less bulky. And of course it doesn't come back as far on this. And on the XDM series, as they always have, you can replace the back straps. It comes with 3. You also can remove this magwell if you see fit by popping out this pin. It's the same pin that holds the back strap on, holds the magwell, and you can pop the magwell off. It comes with the magwell pre-installed. With the magwell removed, you can actually use the 19-round magazines, basically the flat base plate version of this. And this does, by the way, come with the flat base plate, yet you can convert these to regular 19-round flat magazines. But with the base plate installed, or the magwell installed, you need to use the extended mags for them to fit. Both of these are designed to be used with a suppressor, but one thing I did notice is the M9A3 does not have suppressor height sights. It has nice, easy to see 3-dot sights. The XDM has blackout suppressor height sights. I would put white dots on these if I were going to keep this, but again, it's lent to us by Springfield Armory, so of course I'm not going to modify it. I found the blackout sights a little harder to use at the range. The sights on the M9A3 are very easy to use. The M9A3 is actually very, very easy to shoot well. Both of them have the same potential for accuracy, and if this had 3-dot sights on it, at least with my eyes, I'd have an easier time shooting it well. Now, of course, one big difference is that plate. That plate pops right off, and something like a Vortex Venom pops right on. Once you put a red dot on this, the concept of the blackout sights it becomes a non-issue. You can actually pull really tight groups, acquire quickly, and shoot it quite well. And of course, that's one of the features, the design features of this, is it's designed to be used with a red dot. There's not an option to put a red dot in the M9A3, and I don't even think it could be modified to do it. It's just designed to work the way it is. Let's talk about the triggers. The triggers on these are completely different. We'll do the XDM trigger first. Now the XDM is safe to dry fire. However, we have a policy, we don't dry fire guns we don't own. So I've got these snap caps, and I'm going to put a snap cap in it. Again, if this were your gun and you wanted to dry fire it, go ahead and have fun with that. It's just we do try to respect other people's property, even if it's a big company that's lent it to us. You'll see the trigger has minimal take-up. It is a flatty trigger. And it has an over-travel stop. So there's the brake. Nice short reset. You're right on the wall. Then the brake again. And I did that kind of quickly. Don't mind the snap caps. Snap caps often don't cycle correctly. This gun has functioned flawlessly, so don't look at that as that the gun doesn't function well or cycle well. There's the reset. You're right on the wall. And then the brake. So it has quite a nice trigger. Now, to claim that snap cap, I'm going to transfer a couple of these over to the magazines for the Beretta. The Beretta is designed for limited dry fire. This gun I do own, so there'd be no reason I wouldn't dry fire it other than the fact that it's not really designed to be heavily dry fired. I'm going to start out hammer down, which by the way, I kind of thumbed the hammer down, but I also could use the thumb safety. The thumb safety on these comes in two versions. This one has where it locks and it's also a safety. There's another version where it doesn't have the locking pin. You'd push it down, it would decock just like this one did and then automatically pop back up. You can get it in either variation. You can also get a replacement for the lever set, and it's a little detailed work to install it, but you can convert one to a safety or decocker only. Regardless of which setting it is, putting it in the safe position is also a decock. One thing I'll note about this, and it's going to be kind of hard to see when it's in the decock position, but there's a little rotating ball here. I'm going to hold the hammer and just kind of show you how it moves. And that has a firing pin extension, and that firing pin extension actually will point down when it's in the safe position. So if this gun is in the safe position, hammer up or hammer down, it really doesn't matter. Actually, this one, it's a decocker, so it's always going to be hammered down. It is impossible for the hammer to connect with the firing pin to connect with the primer. It just can't. There's just no way for that to pass through because that firing pin extension is pointed this way instead of lined up when it's in the safe position. Now one kind of clarification, because I said a couple things in series there that might sound like they're contradictory. So the safety is a safety in one model and a decocker only in the other model, but both variations, whether it's the safety or not, will decock. So when it's in the safe position down, the hammer won't stay back. If it's up, then the hammer, of course, can cock back. So if you have the decocker only, and so you got the hammer cocked, you hit it and it decocks because that's what it's going to do, and then it snaps itself back up. At this point now you have hammer down on the firing pin extension, which is lined up with the firing pin. So in the decocker only model, that particular safety feature is disabled. Now there's also still a piston style drop safety in here. So what I was talking about there with it being impossible really applies to the safety version, which is a safety and decocker, which at this point now that extension is this way. So if you want the ultimate in safety features, you would leave it in the safety version where it's both a decocker and a safety. However, the decocker only version is safe, you just have one fewer active safeties. There is no grip safety. Of course, I'm showing you the thumb safety, and when I take it apart, I'll show you that it has the internal safety. Other than that, it is a comfortable gun. Both of these have 3-slot Picatinny rails, so that you can put lights and lasers and other capabilities on it. And on the XDM, it does have a grip safety with a little bit of an extension. So these are both equally safe. Now let's go back to what I was going to do with the trigger. Got some snap caps in here. Go ahead and chamber one. So I now am because I cycled it, I'm in hammer back, so I'm in single action mode. There's a minimal amount of take up. Really light, short, crisp brake. There's the reset. So it's a similar reset to the XDM. Unfortunately, there is some take up to get back on the wall, and then a really short, crisp break. Now, one of the other operating modes of this is, of course, it's a DASA. So now you'll see that the hammer is down. I'll zoom out a little bit. You'll see that the hammer is down. I can pull the trigger, which will cock the hammer and break it at the same time. One thing I noticed about this is it's a fairly light double action, and it's quite smooth. There's little or no stacking, so as I'm pulling it back, the effort to pull it is roughly the same all the way back. Stacks maybe just a hair at the end, but overall it's a quite nice trigger. Now on the XDM, because it's basically a striker-fired gun, the triggers are going to be the same every time. Go ahead and put the snap cap back in it. So it's always going to be cycled. It's always going to have that minimal take-up, actually much less take-up than the Beretta in either operating mode, and that really short, crisp break. From a trigger consistency, the XDM is going to win. The trigger is very much the same every time, and when it resets, it's right on the wall. The Beretta has the advantage of a slightly lighter trigger when it's in single action mode, and a little bit of a shorter break, but both triggers are nice triggers. The one other safety that you've got on the XDM, I'll cycle it one more time, is you have a cocking indicator on the XDM that shows you that the striker is cocked, and that'll disappear when you pull the trigger. So at this point, let me take these two apart, show you the internals on them. So one last thing I'll note on the Beretta, you have a little bit of a piston that pops up as part of the drop safety mechanism that as you pull the trigger comes up a little bit and then goes back down again. Additionally, of course, it's easy to tell if this is cocked. The hammer's back. So let's go ahead and take both of these apart, eject any snap caps that I've got. They're both easy to disassemble. The XDM, you grip it like you were going to fire it because you have to depress the grip safety, lock it back, flip the lever up, pull it apart. And you've got your standard striker fired looking internals. There's your drop safety piston, the striker catch, loading ramp, dual recoil spring, and I made one mistake there. On this one, you have to remove the thread protector to remove the barrel, and nice polished feed ramp. So the XDMs are actually very well constructed. They're nice guns, they're easy to work with, easy to disassemble and maintain. Slide the thread protector back on, and I'll set that aside. And now I'll go ahead and I'll disassemble. This one is a little easier. Just push the button, flip it down, and the side comes right off. Now, two things you're going to notice that are going to be different. One, this is not a captive recoil spring. This one's a little bit better than some non-captive ones to put back in, but the barrel is noticeably different. And to remove the barrel, one of the things I had to do is squeeze this piston in to lift up this arm to free it up. It's got a completely different locking mechanism than most other guns. It does work well, it is reliable, but you also notice the thread protector is still on it. These are designed, they're military guns. It was designed for the military. They're designed to not have a lot of loose parts laying around that you can easily lose. The slide is much simpler on this because it is a hammer-fired gun, so all the complexities in the fire control group. But there's a drop safety piston. So it is a drop-safe weapon, whether it's in the decocked safe or decock only mode. It just determines whether you got two safeties protecting you or just one. And of course, from a frame complexity standpoint, put the 92 at the bottom. They're fairly similar as far as overall quality and construction. A little bit shorter guides on the 92, or I'm sorry, the M9A3. And you'll see that the fire control group is completely different. This one I believe is nickel boron coated, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And of course, one big difference is the XDM is a polymer frame and the M9A3 is an alloy frame. I wouldn't call that a quality difference, it's just a design difference. You know, most of the modern striker guns these days are polymer frames, and of course the older military style guns tend to be alloy frames or steel. This is an alloy. They're both easy to put back together. Slide the barrel back in, and of course I already put the slide back together on the XDM. And that spring goes right in there, as opposed to many of the other single non-captive springs. Of course you do, oh, I didn't get the barrel in there right. The barrel can be a little twitchy to get in there, and you have to be careful when you're putting the spring back in that you don't push that button and release the barrel, or you will get it to where it doesn't want to go back together. And of course I said it was easier to do this spring, and of course it's turning me into a liar. There it goes. Help to put it down. Note that, by the way, these were designed for the military, but they were never actually adopted by the military, the M9A3. They went with the SIG instead. And we'll go ahead and put the XDM back together. I would say overall the XDM is the easier of the two to disassemble and reassemble because the parts are simpler and it just goes right together like any other striker gun. From an MSRP standpoint, that's going to be one of the primary differences. The XDM has an MSRP of $709. Street price is going to be around $625. The M9A3 has an MSRP of $1,100. Street price is around $1,000. I have seen these on occasion on some kind of a large sale, special run, that type of thing, in the $800 territory. But expect to routinely pay north of $900 is going to be the general price you're going to pay for one of these M9A3s. And the XDM, again, you can probably get around the $625, and as they become more popular and more readily available, it may drop a little bit. A couple of minor details before we close out. One thing I'll mention is both of these guns have dovetail sights. So if for whatever reason you don't like the sights that are available on either one of these, you can easily change them out. Overall, either one's going to serve you well. They're both easy to shoot well. They're both high accuracy potential. The sights on the M9 are a little bit easier to see, but of course, since you can change sights, that's not a difficult thing to deal with. Beyond that, I really enjoy both of these guns. I'm going to kind of miss this one when it goes back to Springfield. Thanks again to Springfield for letting us borrow it. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, Gunstreamer, kind of everywhere. Thank you.